The bold and the beautiful has always understood that the most devastating explosions rarely come from open warfare. They come wrapped in sentiment, disguised as tradition, and delivered at moments when everyone is most convinced that unity has finally been restored. That is precisely why the current storm gathering around Forrester Creations feels so ominous. On the surface, the family appears to be preparing for a holiday season meant to soothe wounds and reaffirm legacy. Beneath that surface, however, fractures are widening, resentments are calcifying, and power is quietly being repositioned. In the middle of this volatility, Eric Forrester and Donna Logan are preparing what they call a holiday surprise, a phrase that sounds benign but, within the emotional grammar of the bold and the beautiful, signals danger. Because when the Forrester family gathers under the illusion of togetherness, it is almost always truth, not love, that is waiting inside the wrapping paper. Forrester Creations has rarely been as internally fragile as it is now. The company is not collapsing financially, but it is splintering emotionally and ideologically. Katie Logan's decision to chart her own course has sent shockwaves through the institution, not merely because of what she represents as a designer, but because of what her departure symbolizes. Katie stepping away is not just a career pivot. It is a rejection of the Forrester gravitational pull, a declaration that the legacy no longer guarantees loyalty. Her move has forced everyone left behind to confront an uncomfortable question. If someone as deeply entwined as Katie can choose independence, who else might follow? That question grows louder with Thomas Forrester's return. His reemergence is not subtle, nor is it conciliatory. Thomas arrives with confidence sharpened into entitlement, reclaiming space at Forrester Creations as though absence never mattered. To some, especially Steffi Forrester, his return feels like restoration, a reclaiming of talent and bloodline at a time when the family needs to project strength. To others, particularly those who remember the damage Thomas has left in his wake, his presence feels like a regression masquerading as progress. The tension is not merely personal, it is structural. Thomas represents a version of Forrester power that assumes forgiveness is automatic and legacy is immune to accountability. Meanwhile, Ridge Forrester finds himself standing on increasingly unstable ground. For years, Ridge has positioned himself as the guardian of the Forrester name, the arbiter of what belongs and who deserves to lead. But now his authority is being challenged from multiple directions at once. Katie's departure undermines the myth of unbreakable family allegiance. Thomas's return threatens to reopen wounds Ridge has spent years minimizing or ignoring. And Eric, the patriarch Ridge has long both revered and resented, is quietly preparing to remind everyone where true power originates. Eric Forrester has always understood timing. He is not impulsive, nor is he cruel, but he is deliberate in a way that can feel devastating to those caught off guard. His partnership with Donna has softened him emotionally, but it has also clarified his priorities. Eric no longer views legacy solely as something to be preserved. He sees it as something to be shaped, corrected, and, if necessary, redirected. Donna, often underestimated as merely supportive or nurturing, has become a grounding influence in Eric's decision-making. Together, they are not plotting chaos, but they are preparing to disrupt complacency. The idea of a holiday surprise carries layered meaning in this context. Holidays at Forrester Creations are rituals of reassurance, moments when conflicts are temporarily buried under nostalgia and shared history. By choosing this moment to unveil something significant, Eric and Donna are not seeking harmony, they are forcing honesty. Whether the surprise takes the form of a public declaration, a legal decision regarding the company's future, or a redefinition of inheritance, its purpose is clear: to ensure that the next chapter of Forrester Creations is not dictated by fear of confrontation. The brilliance and danger of this move lies in its framing. Families expect gifts during the holidays, not reckonings. They expect warmth, not recalibration. By presenting truth as celebration, Eric is ensuring that no one can easily reject it without exposing their own motivations. If Ridge or Steffi react defensively, it will reveal how deeply they equate control with loyalty. If Thomas bristles, it will test the sincerity of his claims of growth. And if others, quietly dissatisfied, feel relief, that relief will speak volumes about how suffocating the current structure has become. The tension within the family is already taut, stretched thin by unspoken grievances. Thomas's return has reactivated old alliances and old suspicions. Steffi's unwavering support of her brother reads, to some, as strength and unity. To others, it feels like denial bordering on recklessness. Ridge's instinct to smooth over discomfort rather than confront it head-on has left him vulnerable, caught between the past he defends and the future he cannot fully control. Katie's absence looms larger precisely because she is no longer present to absorb or deflect that tension. Her choice has removed a stabilizing force, making every remaining conflict sharper. Eric sees all of this. More importantly, he sees the cost of inaction. For years, he allowed the next generation to define Forrester creations in their own image, trusting that the name itself would anchor them. Now, watching divisions deepen and values drift, he understands that silence is no longer neutrality, it is complicity. The holiday surprise is not revenge, nor is it favoritism. It is intervention. Donna's role in this cannot be overstated. She brings emotional clarity to Eric's strategic instincts, reminding him that legacy is not just about control, but about care. She understands the human cost of Forrester power struggles because she has lived on their margins, often dismissed, often underestimated. Her influence ensures that whatever Eric unveils will not be cold or purely transactional. It will be framed in love, which makes it far harder to dismiss and far more painful to resist. As the family gathers, convinced they are coming together to heal, the irony becomes almost unbearable. They will toast, reminisce, and reassure themselves that despite recent turbulence, the Forrester name remains unshaken. That illusion is precisely what Eric intends to dismantle. The truth he is preparing to reveal is not meant to destroy the family, but to force it to grow beyond patterns that no longer serve it. Growth, however, is rarely painless. When the surprise finally lands, it will not be the content alone that causes shock, but the timing. Delivered in the glow of holiday lights, amid expectations of unity, it will feel like a rupture. Ridge and Steffi, accustomed to anticipating threats, may find themselves blindsided not because they were careless, but because they assumed the threat would come from outside. They did not expect it to come from the man who built the empire they are trying to protect. Thomas's reaction will be equally revealing. If he truly believes he has changed, this moment will test that belief more than any professional challenge. Will he accept limits if they are imposed? Will he respect a legacy that does not automatically center him? Or will entitlement reassert itself the moment his position feels threatened? The holiday surprise will not answer these questions outright, but it will force Thomas to confront them in real time. What makes this storyline resonate is not the promise of shock, but the inevitability of consequence. Forrester Creations cannot continue as it has, relying on tradition to excuse dysfunction and loyalty to silence dissent. Katie's departure was the first crack. Thomas's return widened it. Eric and Donna's intervention threatens to split it open. And yet, within that fracture lies the possibility of renewal. When the family leaves the holiday gathering, nothing will truly be wrapped up. Some relationships will feel newly fragile, others unexpectedly honest. The gift Eric and Donna offer is not comfort, but clarity. In the world of the bold and the beautiful, clarity is often the most dangerous thing of all, because once truth is spoken, it cannot be rewrapped. It lingers, reshaping choices long after the decorations come down. As the night closes and the holiday lights dim, Forrester Creations will stand at a crossroads. The question will no longer be whether the family can reunite, but whether it can evolve. And in that moment, it will become clear that the real surprise was never the announcement itself, but the courage to deliver it when everyone least expected it. The bold and the beautiful does not allow revelations to settle gently. Truth, once unwrapped, never remains static. It provokes reaction, retaliation, and reckoning. The holiday surprise prepared by Eric Forrester and Donna Logan was meant to force clarity, to halt the quiet rot spreading through Forrester Creations by confronting it with honesty. But clarity, especially when delivered in a family built on power and legacy, rarely produces humility. In the immediate aftermath of Eric's move, the house does not find peace. It finds fracture. And into that fracture, Thomas Forrester steps with ruthless precision. Thomas does not react emotionally to Eric's announcement. He does not storm out, raise his voice, or protest publicly. His response is colder, more dangerous. He listens. He absorbs. He calculates. For Thomas, the holiday revelation is not a moral reckoning. It is a strategic provocation. Eric has reminded the family that legacy is not inherited blindly, that power can be redistributed, and that loyalty will no longer be rewarded without accountability. To Thomas, this is not guidance, it is a threat. And Thomas Forrester does not respond to threats with patience. He responds with leverage. The first thing Thomas understands with unsettling clarity is that the weakest point in the current power map is Katie Logan. Katie is no longer under the Forrester umbrella. She has chosen independence, and in doing so, she has made herself vulnerable. Her new venture is still young, still building infrastructure, still dependent on goodwill, suppliers, and timing. That fragility is not a moral failure. It is the natural risk of starting something new. But to Thomas, it is an opportunity. Where others see Katie's departure as symbolic, Thomas sees it as tactical. He does not frame his next move as revenge or spite. He tells himself it is business. He convinces himself that Katie's success would weaken Forrester Creations at a moment when unity is already strained. In his mind, forcing her collapse is not cruelty. It is protection. This is how Thomas justifies the unthinkable, by recasting aggression as stewardship. Quietly, methodically, Thomas begins to apply pressure. He leverages relationships forged during his years at Forrester Creations, calling in favors that were never truly owed but were always expected. Suppliers who had tentatively agreed to work with Katie's new brand suddenly hesitate. Fabric orders are delayed, then repriced. Exclusive materials become unavailable without explanation. Distribution partners, once enthusiastic, begin citing unexpected conflicts and strategic realignments. None of it is overt. None of it traces directly back to Thomas. That is the point. At the same time, Forrester Creations announces a series of aggressive initiatives under Thomas's creative leadership. New lines are teased. Marketing budgets swell. Campaigns are timed to coincide precisely with Katie's planned launches. The message is subtle but unmistakable. The Forrester machine is awake, and it will not tolerate competition from within its own bloodline. To the outside world, this looks like healthy competition. To Katie, it feels like suffocation. Katie senses it before she can prove it. She feels it in the tightening margins, in the meetings that suddenly end without commitments, in the way optimism drains from rooms she once energized. She does not immediately suspect Thomas. Part of her still believes that stepping away from Forrester Creations insulated her from its internal wars. That belief dissolves quickly. Independence, she realizes, does not guarantee safety when the family you left still controls the landscape. As pressure mounts, Katie is forced to confront a brutal reality. Her company is bleeding money faster than projected. Investors grow nervous. Cash flow tightens. Every delay compounds the next. The dream she built on courage and conviction begins to wobble under forces she cannot fully see. And the most devastating part is the isolation. Katie has chosen this path alone, believing that autonomy would bring clarity. Instead, it has brought exposure. Thomas watches from a distance, never appearing directly in Katie's orbit. That absence is strategic. He understands that direct confrontation would trigger resistance, sympathy, and possibly intervention from Eric or Donna. Instead, he lets the market do the damage. He lets circumstances tell the story. In his mind, when Katie collapses financially, it will appear inevitable rather than engineered. He will be blameless. Or so he believes. The irony is that Thomas does not experience this as malice. He experiences it as validation. Each obstacle Katie faces reinforces his belief that Forrester Creations is the only viable empire, that independence is an illusion, and that those who leave deserve to learn the cost of disloyalty. This is the same logic that has always governed Thomas's worldview. Power protects, and anything that threatens power must be neutralized. Meanwhile, Eric begins to sense the shift. He notices the timing of Forrester's aggressive expansion, the sudden urgency behind Thomas's initiatives, the way conversations about creativity have been replaced by conversations about dominance. Eric has seen this before. He recognizes the difference between ambition and obsession. And he understands, with growing dread, that his holiday intervention may have triggered a response he underestimated. Donna sees it too, though from a more human angle. She hears Katie's strain in her voice, notices the fatigue behind her optimism, the way she downplays setbacks as temporary. Donna knows that tone. It is the sound of someone fighting not to admit defeat. When Donna begins connecting dots, Forrester's sudden moves, Thomas's renewed influence, Katie's inexplicable losses, the picture that forms is not coincidence. It is intent. Ridge, caught in the middle, is slower to accept the possibility. He wants to believe Thomas is focused on work, that his son has matured beyond vendettas. But denial has always been Ridge's default defense. When confronted with the idea that Thomas might be deliberately undermining Katie, Ridge hesitates, not because the accusation is impossible, but because acknowledging it would force him to confront his own complicity. He has defended Thomas too many times to claim neutrality now. Steffi, on the other hand, reacts with conflicted intensity. She is fiercely loyal to her brother, yet she cannot ignore the pattern emerging. She understands business. She understands strategy. And she understands Thomas. The realization that he might be using Forrester's power to destroy Katie's independence unsettles her more than she expects. Not because she doubts his capability, but because she recognizes the emotional root beneath the tactic. This is not just about competition. It is about control. As Katie's situation deteriorates, the stakes escalate rapidly. Payroll becomes a question mark. Legal advisors warn of impending insolvency if conditions do not improve. The word bankruptcy enters conversations that once revolved around vision and growth. Each time it is spoken, it feels heavier, more final. Katie is forced to confront the possibility that her bold step toward freedom may end in public collapse. The most devastating blow is not financial, it is personal. Katie realizes that Thomas is not simply blocking her path, he is sending a message. Leave Forrester Creations, and you will be punished. Challenge the legacy, and the legacy will crush you. This realization strips away any lingering illusion that the family conflict is benign. It is warfare, dressed in couture and legal language. When Eric finally confronts Thomas, not with accusation, but with quiet authority, the encounter is chilling. Thomas does not deny his involvement outright. He speaks instead about market forces, about competition, about the necessity of strength in uncertain times. He frames Katie's struggles as unfortunate, but inevitable, the natural consequence of stepping into an arena dominated by giants. His calmness is more alarming than rage would have been. Eric sees, in that moment, the full extent of what his son has become. Not a villain in the traditional sense, but something more insidious, a man who believes his actions are justified by legacy itself. Eric understands then that the holiday surprise was only the opening move. The real battle is just beginning, and it will not be fought with declarations, but with consequences. As Katie stands on the brink of financial ruin, the question is no longer whether Thomas has gone too far, but whether anyone is willing or able to stop him. Eric must decide whether to intervene decisively, even if it means dismantling the very structure he built. Ridge must choose between protecting his son and preserving his integrity. Steffi must confront whether loyalty can coexist with accountability. And Katie must decide whether survival means surrender, alliance, or a fight she never intended to wage. The tragedy of this moment lies in its inevitability. Thomas believes he is defending Forrester Creations. In reality, he is proving why it needs defending from him. As the holiday season fades and the consequences of wrapped truths begin to surface, one thing becomes clear. Thomas's move to push Katie toward bankruptcy is not the end of the story. It is the spark. And what ignites next will determine not just the future of one company, but the soul of the Forrester legacy.